Hello there, my name is Lee. And I'm Ned. And today we watched some classic TV, The Magician. The Magician starring Bill Bixby. So stay tuned and let's talk about it. So this was a new one to me, The Magician. I've never seen it before. Really? Yeah, I'd heard about it because I really like the guy in it, Bill Bixby, right? He was the Incredible Hulk. Really? He doesn't look big enough? Well, he was David Banner, or Bruce Banner, or whatever you want to call him, before he turned into the Hulk. That's how I knew him when I was growing up. And it was only in the last few years I discovered that he made a programme called The Magician, where he played, can you guess? A magician. Yeah, good guess. Well, I watched it. We watched the pilot episode, and that means first, yeah, they know, that means the first episode. So the episode begins with the magician on stage in a nice fancy club. His audience are enthralled, they're loving his show, he's doing some magic tricks. Yeah, cool stuff, it is cool. Big trick for this performance is he climbs inside a cage like a rocket. It is shaped like a rocket, it's a bit strange. And for this trick with the cage rocket, the magician needs a volunteer. And this woman stands up in the audience. Jenny Cranky. Sorry? She looks like Jenny Cranky. If you know who Jimmy Cranky is, she does look a little bit like her, I suppose. A lot. Okay. So, Jimmy Cranky comes up and helps on stage. And the magician steps inside the cage rocket. And he puts on a top hat. He does put on a top hat to do this trick. Hi. I don't actually know why he does it, but he puts on a top hat, gets into the cage, and wee Jenny Cranky locks up the cage. The stage fills with smoke, and the magician vanishes, disappears. Yep, you can hear his voice around the hall, around the room, in different places, but no one can see him. He has vanished. Ta-da! And then he reappears outside of the cage, but outside of the cage rocket, but he opens it up and out steps his glamorous assistant. Yeah. But while all this is going on, in the audience, there is a very sweaty man approaching a very worried looking older lady. Yeah. He reaches her and then collapses. Seems to be that his heart has given out before he could reach her. So the magician ends the show and he comes and speaks to the lady and he takes her to his dressing room. Why? I'm not really sure why, again. I think he's just being nice. He finds out her name is Mrs. Coogan and he offers to help her. Why? I don't know. He cancels his performance for the next night so he can help Mrs. Coogan. Does he know her? No, he doesn't know her. He's never met her before. Okay. So they're in his dressing room. Is she a groupie? No, she's not a groupie. He steps out to speak to the doctor who has been examining the body of the sweaty guy. Yeah. Whose name is Mr. October. The doctor? No, the sweaty guy's name is Mr. October. Okay. Who's the doctor? I don't know the doctor's name. But the magician who we just found out is called Mr. Dorian. Yeah. Although that would be changed later in the series. Why? Well, because there was a real magician whose name was Dorian and they didn't take too kindly to his name being used. The magician, Mr. Dorian, is speaking to the doctor and the doctor says this man's name was Mr. October. It looks like his heart has given out. He's no longer with us. Yeah. So, the magician, Mr. Dorian, steals the guy's personal effects like his wallet and his ID. Cool, sleight of hand. Except it's not, is it? No, he just takes it. Yeah, there's no sleight of hand. Just takes the stuff. Ta-da! Oh, Mr. Dorian heads back to his dressing room where he finds Mrs. Coogan being threatened by a gunman. But don't worry, because you remember what Dorian did? Yeah, he scares off the gunman. Yeah, do you remember how? He throws a divot at him. Seriously, he throws a dove from his sleeve at the gunman, and the gunman goes, "Ah!" and runs off. So Dorian takes Mrs. Coogan, yeah, and he invites her to San Francisco. Yeah. So she goes with him to San Francisco. They get on a private plane. Yeah. Why? I don't know, but they go to San Francisco on the magician's private plane, and we meet the pilot. The pilot's called Jerry Waltz. He's a cool guy, he is, and his name is also changed for the series. Really? Yeah. Why? I don't actually know. Okay. But he reveals that the magician lives on the plane. He doesn't have a home, he just lives on the plane. So I guess Jerry lives on the plane too. I guess so, whether he likes it or not. Sorry, Jerry, this is a job. Oh, his car, his cool car. The magician has got a cool car, and its license plate is personalised. Yeah, and it says Spirit. Okay, yeah, it says Spirit. And on this journey, we also find out that the magician's name is Tony Dorian. So they arrive in San Francisco, and they end up at a strange house with strange people. And these people, I think, will be series extras. Yeah, I'll never know. What do you mean? I'm not going to watch it. Okay. You're showing your hand a bit early, but okay. Well. But I think the people we meet in this house are going to be series regulars who will help Tony with his mysteries that he has to solve and crimes he takes it upon himself to solve. Yeah, how's you doing? Get back to work. And the strangest thing about this house is that Tony Dorian is looking for some information, some history, and I'll tell him. Right, you tell them. A door opens and a little guy in a wheelchair comes out. Yeah, a young guy in a wheelchair comes out. Yeah, and he gives information and he just heals himself back into the room and closes the door, and I guess he just lives in there. I guess so. They just keep him behind this door, and when they need some information they say, "Come on out." Seems a bit strange. There are a few things in this show that seem a bit strange. Yeah. So Mrs. Coogan has a daughter called Mary Rose, and Mrs. Coogan believes that Mary Rose was in a plane crash a few weeks before this, and she didn't make it. Yeah. But it turns out they think her daughter is actually alive and well, just not accessible at the moment. The magician, Tony, leaves Mrs. Coogan in the strange house with the strange people. She's got her own room. For some reason she does have her own room there. And he goes to the train station because he heard that Mr. October's wife is coming in to identify the body. Yeah, turns out it's not her. No, it's not. But Tony goes to intercept her anyway. Why? I don't know. He meets her and he finds out her name is actually Mrs. Baker. Baker? Yeah. Not October, no. But Baker is the name of the aeroplane company whose aeroplane Mary Rose was allegedly on a few weeks ago when it had its fatal crash. Right, so Mrs. Baker is probably in her 30s. Yeah. She's nice. Okay. But Tony follows Mrs. Baker into the docks and she gets on a boat and sails off. So Tony drives away and he's got a car phone. He does have a car phone. He phones one of his friends at the strange house. Yeah. He's got a car phone? Yeah, it's a status symbol back then. Yeah, 1973. Yeah, that's 50 years ago. I know. So somehow Tony knows where Mrs. Baker lives. She has her own little secret house away from Mr. Baker, who, to be fair, is about 70 years old. Yeah, he's a codger. No offence to any 70-year-olds. Unless you're a codger. No, stop that. So Tony breaks into her house and sits shuffling his cards until she arrives. And then he startles her. And then they start to flirt. Yeah, they just start flirting with each other. He's smooth and she's smooth. It turns out Mary Rose worked for the Bakers, yeah, and she was also in love with the Baker's, well, Mr. Baker's son, Mrs. Baker's stepson, yeah, who, Mrs. Baker says, she also had the hot star. She had the hot star her own stepson. She said things could have developed. He could have been more than a friend if it wasn't for Mary Rose. Yeah. Disgusting. So after this, Tony goes to find Mr. Baker, the codger. He's an older gentleman, he's about 70, and he's on a plane. Tony gets on it, and they have a little meeting, and the gunman is there. The gunman from the club? Yeah, the one that threatened Mrs. Coogan. Yeah. Tony leaves. They have a civil chat. Tony leaves, and then the gunman follows Tony. Uh-oh. But it's okay. Yeah, because there's a little car chase, yep, through the streets of San Francisco, so it's all the hills. Kill that. Tony just starts, and the gunman just starts, yep. And Tony gets out, and he takes on a shaving cream, and sprays it on the windshield of the gunman's car. Yeah. And the gunman just sort of touches it, and shakes his head, and Tony leaves. And that's the end of that chase. I mean, it's clean. Just get your windshield lighters on, it'll wash it away. So Tony goes back to meet with Mrs. Baker and gets a little kiss. And he finds out that there's going to be an anniversary party that night for the Bakers. They've been married 1 year. Ooh, 1 year. They couldn't be married anymore because she's too young. It'd be illegal. Well, she's not that young. So then we cut to that night, and preparations are underway for the party. 3 people we've never seen before are in a car. One of them's got a gun. Why? I don't know. I don't know who they are. But they arrive, even though they're in a car, they arrive by boat at this party. And they're welcomed into the party by Mr. Baker, the codger. He stopped saying that, he's just an older man. Tony sneaks up to the house, makes his way inside as he does. He's just a criminal. He sneaks into the house and he finds out there's a secret trapdoor, because these 3 strangers and Mr. Baker go into this trapdoor, down into a hidden basement where they have a shady meeting, and we find out Mr. Baker's son's body is in a coffin, and they all have a good look. And Mr. Baker says, so you see, this is why the deal isn't going ahead as planned, but I still will give you this bomb. Da, da, da. He's developed a bomb. His son got greedy and faced the consequences. So now Mr. Baker is going to give these 3 people a bomb, and they're going to pay him $100 million. So after the meeting, the 3 people and Mr. Baker head back upstairs. Tony is hiding in the shadows. I think he's trapped. He's trapped in the underground bunker. Oh, wait. There's a big button that says open. Yeah, he just pushes the button and gets out. And then Tony sneaks into Mrs. Baker's room, which is separate from Mr. Baker's bedroom, for more smooching and to tell her what he's discovered. And no snitching. He seems to stay there for a little while. But when he leaves, it's still dark. And then they cut to the next morning and he's driving along. Yep, I don't know where he slept. In his plane? Maybe he went back to the airport. In that weird house? Maybe the weird house. In his car? I don't know. He finds out Mary Rose had a close friend, so he goes to find this close friend and just lets himself into her house. Again, he's a criminal. Well, it's getting harder to argue. But he just breaks into her house, finds her beaten up, almost unconscious. She's in a daddy. She is. And he gets some information from her. Yeah. He questions her and then calls an ambulance. He's supposed to be the good guy. Oh my goodness. So the information he got from this critically ill young lady is that Mary Rose is still alive, and Mary Rose is at this certain location. So Tony goes to the location. That he's too late. He is too late, because we see Mary Rose being drugged and kidnapped by some goons. Mr. Baker's goons. And then it's time for the party. You get next up. I did. I thought the party was the previous night, but no, silly. It's The party's actually tonight. It was a secret meeting last night. Yeah, that's a little tarty, I guess so. And Tony's weird friend is there. Yeah, he's passing on messages. He tells Mrs. Baker something, and Mrs. Baker goes and answers the door and collects the delivery. And this delivery is huge. It's bigger than that. Yeah, it's about 30 feet tall. It is a huge, huge box with a big ribbon on it. So Mrs. Baker says, "This is my gift. Let's open it up." They open it up, and guess what it is? The Hulk. No, it's not the Hulk. It's the Cage Rocket. The Cage Rocket from the start of the show. Yeah. And inside it is the magician. Yes, Tony Dorian is inside the Cage Rocket. No hat. He didn't put his hat on this time. No. He comes out, he does a couple of tricks. Some cool stuff, makes a wine glass appear. Yeah, it's good, some good magic. And then he goes back inside the Cage Rocket, and it gets locked up, and the place fills with smoke. Yeah, and he disappears. Just like at the start, he disappears. But this time, we see where he goes, don't we? Yeah. No magic secrets. He sneaks down into the secret underground basement. Yeah. And he finds Mary Rose and the goons. Oh, he's going to fight them. He doesn't fight them. He is holding a little cigarette, yeah, and he just drops it on the floor. It explodes into a big puff of smoke, and he and Mary Beth run out. So they escape from the underground bunker, and the place is still filled with smoke upstairs. So Tony reappears in front of the locked Cage Rocket, yeah, and he opens up the Cage Rocket, and inside it's Mary Rose, and she's in a sparkly dress and a fancy mask and a fancy outfit. Where did she get time to get all that on? Where did she get those clothes? I don't know. Did you notice what? It's daytime now. It is suddenly daytime, so they run off and they get into a speedboat, which Tony has waiting. Yeah. And they rush off. Speedboat chase! It's a pretty cool speedboat chase. Is that the music? Oh, it's just what I imagine. Okay. And some gunmen are chasing them on another speedboat. And then, when you think they're going to get caught, they're going to get captured. Guess who flies down to save them? Aquaman. No. Jerry appears with his plane, and it's a seaplane, and he skims along the surface, and Tony and Mary Rose jump from the speedboat into the plane, kill stunt. Yeah, and do you know what else? Bill Bixby is actually sitting on the edge of the plane like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. You can see his face being blown back. I thought, oh, that's a stunt person. That's an obvious stunt person. But it wasn't. It was just because Bill Bixby's face was being blown back by the strong wind and water. And he's like that. I'm not doing it again. But pretty cool. And then they fly off. And then we see a shot of the big plane that Tony lives in. Actually, we see a shot of the toy plane, which looks like I need it. It's not the best special effect. Yeah, it's rubbish. And then there's a reunion with mother and daughter, Mary Rose and her mother, Mrs. Coogan. Yeah, it's totsy nosh. Did you tear up a little bit? No, I was just glad it was over. They all have a hug, all three of them. Tony drives off and the credits come up instantly. That's it, it's over. The end. The end. Goodbye. Bye, Tony. Cheerio. So what did you think of 1973's pilot episode of The Magician? Well, I'm glad I watched it. Okay. And I'll never ever watch it again. No? What about the series? Do you think you'll give it a go? I don't think so. No? I might. I think I'll watch a few episodes. In any order? I don't know. But I know you can buy the DVD box set. And the pilot episode was on YouTube for us to watch. Yeah. So give it a go. Give it a go. If you like things like Columbo or The Incredible Hulk or Magnum to an extent. You might like this. Bill Bixby's always good. He's always charming. Yeah. And flirtatious. And it's a decent little show. But thank you again for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Check out one of the other videos. Thank you. Ta-da! I can do magic. You can do magic. Yeah, watch this. Pretty impressive. I know.